Could influencers do more to protect their audiences? And if so, where are the boundaries between creative freedom and social responsibility?
Welcome to Voice Notes Suck with Jay and Dave.
Influence is everywhere, from your favourite creators to the ads you don't even realise you're watching. But when does influence become a responsibility? And where do we draw the line? Let's get into it.
So, Jay, Series 3 of Voice Notes Suck. Who'd have thunk it? I wasn't sure I thunk it when we started, but I'm very grateful to be here nonetheless. And I can see there being more Series 2, as long as we enjoy making this one, which I'm sure we will, because it's all about modern life. And there's a variety of subjects that we're both quite passionate about. And I'm going to enjoy talking through a lot of the different episodes. But today's episode, the influence of influencers, the rise of the influencer. The last 5 years or so, we've seen influencers become massive and have a huge say on all sorts of things, even to the point where, podcasts had an impact on the recent US election. So, yeah, the influence of influencers, it's going to be exciting to talk about. There's going to be a lot of things that we want to cover. But the rise of influencers is probably where to start.
Dave, influencers rising like a yeasty cob. Influencers aren't always good either, are they? I mean, we say influencer. Is it good? Is it bad? Is it neutral? It's usually weird celebrities or like some kind of alternative makeup artist or something. What do you think of influencers? That's my question.
Jay, a yeasty cob. You have a way with words, my friend, that certainly makes me smile. How do I feel about influencers? Individually, like me as an individual, I think they can be what you said. They can be good, bad, or neutral. I think they're part of society, they're part of social media, and they're a great way for advertisers to get directly to audiences that care about a certain subject. I think one of the concerns I have with influencers is the fact that almost everyone seems to have a different description of what an influencer is and who's an influencer. From your mega celebrities like Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi, probably other sports stars that I can't think of, your Taylor Swifts, your mega pop stars, to people with, much smaller audiences. Micro influencers are a thing, people with 5 to 10,000 followers or with 1,000 to 10,000 followers. It's definitely something that's not going away. And I don't think I feel, strongly or not strongly about them. How do you feel about influencers, Jay?
How do I feel about influencers? I think it depends on the person who is... It used to be famous people who'd achieved a lot in life would endorse a product, but now it feels like products are endorsing these like viral TikTok stars and someone who may have done something sensationalist. They suddenly almost used by brands to advertise. And I know brands pay these influencers sometimes handsome amounts of money based on the metrics that they've got, based on the followers and the likes that they get and how much the videos are seen. So in a way, the influencers are kind of, I feel like they're being exploited by very clever marketing teams. What do you reckon?
That's an interesting thing. I think there have definitely been influencers that have been exploited by things that have been less than savoury. And there are plenty of examples out there. There was one I saw recently, Honey, maybe. I'm going to need to look into it. I need to fact check myself on that one. But where a number of bigger influencers were convinced to promote what was essentially a scam. And that definitely happens. I think when you look at bigger companies, they've got a certain amount of money to spend on advertising, and they'll spend that money on advertising. It's then up to the influencers to decide whether that's a fair value for their time and with regards to their audience and all of those bits and pieces.
That's the issue, though, isn't it? That's the issue for me anyway, is the fact that these influencers have the power to say, yes, I will promote this product for you and show everyone how great it is and show everyone how great this is to do this and do that, whereas that might not necessarily... Where's the regulation? That's not regulated by anyone. Is it regulated by trading standards? Are they regulated by anything like that? Or do they just run amok, showing everyone how to live their lives in the most perfect way possible, and then when reality hits home, you can't because you didn't get the 10 grand, but they did?
Oh, a lot of them will just run amok regardless of any regulation, wherever they are. Most countries will have advertising regulations. We've got the Advertising Standards Agency in the UK, and you have to comply with their rules if you're advertising something. I'm pretty certain there's something similar in the US, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, the EU. Outside of those areas, I don't know so much about. But yeah, each individual person will have to comply with the regulations in their country, and potentially the regulations in the country of where their audience is listening or paying attention to them too as well.
But how? Who, what, where, why, when? Why is this not public knowledge? Where do these people comply with these regulations? And I bet most of them have never read a word of advertising compliance in their lives.
I mean, how do you find out about any rules or regulations? Yeah, have to do the research in the field that you're working within. That you don't just automatically get told this. There's no school for influencers to go to where they're taught this stuff. And very often an influencer, certainly some of the smaller people, they might, hit a viral post or two and their influencer started from that, or they started a YouTube channel and they've got influence from that. But yeah, I mean, it's up to the individual to look for that stuff. You can't spoon feed that kind of stuff to everyone. It's just not possible, Jay.
No, it's not. I think it's naive of us all to think that these influencers comply with any kind of standards or regulations, to be fair. And I mean, the onus is on the brands, I suppose. Do they double check it? Do they just go ahead and do it? I mean, I once filmed some influencer marketing videos for Samsung, and the people in those got paid a lot of money, and someone just turned up with a phone. In fact, they did it with a phone themselves, and then I edited it all together. Yet Samsung paid this influencer because they felt that they were influential enough to get the product across. And I know that there are influencer marketing circles now. You can go on influencer marketing programs, and I've been part of an influencer marketing round table. I even went to a university to have a look at all that. It's very interesting.
I left 100. Yes, you can do all of that. And of course, where there's industry, there becomes more industry and people trying to make a dollar off everyone else's dollar. That is just the nature of humans. And yeah, they're not, but the onus is on the person who's doing the advertising. It's not on the company. The company will vet the influencer and make sure they align with some of their brand principles so that the advertising is going out to a relevant audience. But in terms of being regulatory compliant, that's on the influencer. If you promote a scam, if you promote a fraudulent entity, that's on you as an influencer. That's not on the fraudulent entity. The fraudulent entity will have their own punishment for the crimes they've committed, which will be different to the crimes or the regulations that have been breached from an advertising perspective.
I mean, it feels like an influencer's reputation then is super fragile, more fragile than like a well-established company or business. They're just an individual, aren't they, at the end of the day? And I wonder if influencers have liability insurance. Do you think they're encouraged to get liability insurance from... excuse me, I was just belching up some meatballs then. Hey, that'd be a good product to promote, wouldn't it? Meatballs. Yeah, I wonder if insurance companies have managed to target influencers yet and say, you know, here's some public liability insurance in case it all goes belly up and all the meatballs start flying everywhere.
What I got from that message is that we need to reach out to IKEA and see if they're happy for us to promote their meatballs, maybe even happy for us to get paid for promoting their meatballs. And regarding your second point, yeah, liability insurance is something that people should consider. I don't know. The kind of insurances that I work with, funnily enough, and indemnity insurance is definitely something I think a lot of people in this space need, certainly from a financial perspective. However, I don't know if a lot of the liability policies in the UK would cover for misadvice or bad advice as an influencer. I might need to do some research into that. Interesting, and definitely a viable product. Yeah, you've got me thinking on that now, Jay. Thanks.
Does liability insurance not just cover if someone's going to try and sue you for the fantastic LED kettle that you persuaded them to buy, offended them so much that they ended up getting a divorce, so you want to sue the influencer?
I thought we were supposed to be talking about influencers, not insurance. But let me answer that question quickly. Liability insurance in the UK usually covers the cost of compensation to a third party for personal injury or loss of or damage to a property or an asset. Professional indemnity cover is the cover that would be required to protect an influencer against someone who'd made a loss following that influencer's advice. So if they suffered a financial loss because they followed that influencer's advice, then the type of cover that influencer would need in the UK is professional indemnity. I'm not sure there's a product for that, but that's why my cogs were ticking in the last message. If you've got any more insurance questions, Joe, I'll quite happily answer them. I'm just not sure this is the place.
We're not talking about insurance, though. We're talking about how it affects influencers. Because it's something I don't think people even consider when they go into the realms of pushing products as an influencer or pushing schemes or courses or all that other stuff. You know, I mean, I think sometimes as well, I mean, what about influencers who are inadvertently influencers and they just get labelled as an influencer, but that's not actually how they set out to be. That's not actually who they set out to be. They didn't go out there going, I am going to be an influencer now. They just go viral and then suddenly people call them an influencer. What happens then?
So many good points, Jay. And yeah, I think the insurance thing, I just got hung up on it because that's what my 9 to 5 is, and that's what I was doing today. And I think I fall into that influencer category you're talking about a little bit. I mean, I'm not an influencer. I don't consider myself an influencer. But with the social media following I've got on X, the UK Advertising Standards Agency considers me to be an influencer, and I've got to follow their rules and regulations. It fell on me to find that out, though. No one told me. I had to look that up. And the reason I've got the knowledge I've got is because I've looked that up. And I don't know everything. I don't know anything. I know a bit, but I'm sure there's stuff I don't know about this, and I probably need a refresh. I haven't looked for a while. It's difficult. And there's a big trust thing, right? The internet has kind of changed things and how stuff is being advertised, or social media has at the very least. And now there's a trust between an audience and an influencer. And if you turn into one of those influencers that you're talking about, you've got to make sure that you do things that mean your audience continues to trust you as well.
Okay, then. So now that you're considered an influencer, sorry, I'm just wiping bogies off my nose. What audience do you think you are influencing, and how?
I'm absolutely certain that everyone wanted to know about that personal detail of yours, Jay. Who am I influencing? What am I influencing? I still struggle to think of myself as an influencer. I don't really think of myself as an influencer, and I don't really want to be considered an influencer. I do carry some influence in a creative community that I've helped build and supported. And I think just some people in the crypto sphere will see my posts on X and potentially be influenced by them.
Okay, then. So that being said, what kind of responsibility do you feel that you've got now? Because you clearly have some, and you're obviously aware of your position in the community. Where's the feedback to show that you are having an influence?
So the feedback for that comes directly from people I've supported, people I've helped, on the posts that I put out there on social media, primarily X, from people that have come into a certain blockchain and have been directed to me as a person of influence. And what responsibility do I feel? Well, I feel that I've got to act in a way that aligns with my morals, my values, and try and lead by example. And that's what I hope I've successfully done over the last few years. I mean, you're in a position where your following would be part of the same group. Certainly on X, you've got over 10,000 followers on X, Jay. You look at where you're at on different platforms, you could quite easily be considered an influencer in one form or another. Like, what do you feel about that? How do you feel about that? How do you feel about that? And is it something that you're aware of?
I've never considered myself an influencer, even though the numbers may suggest otherwise. But I am acutely aware of the things I put out there. A, because I run the children's brand, and B, because I'm in All Hell Hyena, which is like a stark contrast to a children's brand. So I'm very mindful of my audiences. I'm not going to be getting a lot of kids in my audience on social media, though. I will be getting parents, and they may show the children. So I have to be mindful of the words that I use. I have to be mindful of some of the opinions I may have, either politically, religiously, or otherwise. So I generally feel slightly restricted in some regards, or maybe filtered, not particularly censored though. But those things do come into play. Do you find that? Do those things come into play with you?
Filtered is the right answer. And you're in the same boat that I'm in terms of you don't feel that you're an influencer, but you're aware that you have influence. And I think they are two different things, and I think it's an important distinction to make. But yes, I definitely filter myself. I commonly swear, very commonly swear quite a lot. And I don't do that when I'm doing things like this. I don't do that when I'm talking on Spaces, on X, and I don't write a lot of swear words in my written posts or in my blog. So yes, filtered is the right way, and an understanding that everyone is likely to feel slightly different about a similar situation or about the same situation based on their perception and experiences.
Yeah, it's a funny one because anyone, excuse me, I've got a little frog in my throat. Anyone listening to this who doesn't know me on a personal, mildly intimate level, would ever think that I swore or I use bad language. And I do, but I don't. I make sure I keep it away from public ears and kids as much as I'm able to. I do, I mean, our friends' kids come round. I might drop an F-bomb now and again, but they'll tell me off and I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, it's English language, and I appreciate that. I don't think we should ever be down on swearing or berate people who swear or anything like that. It is part of the English language, but sometimes it's not appropriate to use. That's why people like Gary Vee, you know, they run in a children's band and they're effing and jeffing all over the place. And he says, oh, I was brought up with that, so it's okay. But I'm not so sure about that opinion. How do you feel about that?
Around language, I agree, Jay. It's I don't want to be a bad influence on someone else's children. They're not my children. It's not my job to raise them. My childhood circumstances are not the same as their children's circumstances now. And yeah, I think some people don't like swearing, and therefore it is respectful not to use it in a public forum too often. I don't think censorship is the right answer either. I just think there is a certain level of politeness and respect shown by not swearing.
I mean, where do we go in regards to like a person's career or reputation? Like, for example, Snoop Dogg has put out a kids show, and I love Snoop Dogg, like to my core. I think he's fantastic. But the other side of it is, you know, his lifestyle choices. What's to stop children exploring that and uncovering his lifestyle choices and being influenced as a young person to potentially use that as him being a role model and follow through on what he's done, you know, like the drugs and sex and all that malarkey. How do you feel about that?
I don't have a strong opinion on that because I don't have children. And it's not my place to tell other people how to parent their children, or society how the society should parent its children. I guess as a parent, or I know as a parent, you've got a responsibility to the welfare of your children, and it's kind of up to you what content they're exposed to. And as a content creator, as someone with an audience, you've got a responsibility to your audience. And if you're not being responsible with your audience, then you'll lose your audience, or you'll potentially lose your audience. So feelings on this one for me are a bit of it's difficult to have strong feelings because I don't fit within the circumstances, if that makes sense. I think that makes sense.
Okay, so how do you feel about influencers with colourful pasts targeting children specifically?
It's difficult. Each situation needs to be looked at individually. That's the first thing that I'll say. That's far too broad a brush. Obviously, there needs to be safeguards for children in place, but that's a bit like asking, how do you feel about girl bands, boy bands aiming their content at young children and then, or their music at young children, and then acting like adults and being on the front pages of newspapers for all of the wrong reasons? I think that's a similar type thing that we're looking at. It's difficult. Each individual situation needs to be looked at individually, and we need to safeguard our children. And that's why these rules and regulations are in place. I want children to be protected and not to be exposed to stuff they shouldn't be exposed to before their parents think it's suitable for them in the vast majority of cases.
So how do we do that if influencers are getting through onto YouTube Kids, for example? How do we possibly circumvent that? Do we need to do that? Or should parents be on top of the kids' activities when it comes to watching influencers and seeing these role models in the world basically influencing quite an influential? No. Easily influenceable. What's the word? Young kids, impressionable young minds. That's the phrase I was looking for.
I think that comes down to governments putting rules in place that have to be followed on YouTube, or people get taken off of YouTube, and parents. It has to be a combined effort. I mean, you're a parent, Jay. Who's responsible for your children's welfare whilst they're online?
Well, it's always, of course, isn't it? I mean, that's obvious. That's the obvious answer to that question. But I guess my point is, like, for example, if you go into let's say you go into Curry's, right, and you're looking to buy a new vacuum or something, or you want to buy a new telly. You don't expect to go in there and be unsafe, do you? You don't think, you don't go in and think something's going to attack me, or I'm going to be influenced in a way that is unhealthy for me. There are certain things put in place by that particular establishment that prevent those things from happening. And so when you say the government should decide, do you think that's actually the way that it should be, or do you think the companies should be deciding and putting safeguarding things in place? I know a lot of them do, don't get me wrong, but they clearly don't monitor all the content, do they? So how do we get around that one?
By government, I kind of mean consensus of the people. Like, we, as a massive group of people, decide what's acceptable and what isn't socially, and then we have a government to implement and enforce that decision. Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? Like, because if you put it on the company completely, that company's there to make profit. If they don't make profit, they don't make money. They'll do what they can to make profit, sometimes to the detriment of a lot of people, including their users. And for the accidental influencer, how do they know this stuff? And what responsibilities should be on them? Like, they never intended to do any of this. Is it when you get paid? Is it when someone starts throwing money at you? Is that when the responsibility is yours as an influencer? And as a person on the internet, like, how do you know what's real and what's not? If someone's not telling you that it's an advert, how do you know if it's an advert or not? There's a lot of pitfalls, and I don't know what the right answers are other than acknowledging the pitfalls, talking about it, having the conversation and asking the questions until we can come together to form some form of consensus.
Well, Dave, maybe podcasts like this are the answer then, to educate people and, well, not even educate, just make people aware. And if there's any influencers listening to this right now, then I genuinely hope that it's helped them, to be honest, because it may be something that they didn't realise or understand, and we're only talking about it from our own experience and interest in people, aren't we? You know, the way people live their lives, the way people present themselves online. And I think influencers in a lot of respects are kind of, if you're going to go down the hierarchy route, they're kind of at the top of the ladder, aren't they, in regards to presenting yourself on the internet, because they go all out. They make such an effort to get attention and retain attention and do what they can to keep people watching.
I think you're right, Jay. I think it will be podcasts like this, platforms similar to this, that ask questions and shares experiences. That's the only answer for influencers. But we're out of time. We really are out of time. We're already over 27 minutes, so we need to wrap this one up. Oh, and my sound is coming through my headphones, so my headphone speaker. So I've been told that the audio quality is a lot better, so I wanted to try it for this series. We will see what happens.
Sounds rubbish, mate. Dave, this summary message for the episode is a month later, but to the listener is milliseconds. Anyway, in this episode, we discussed the ever-evolving role of influencers in modern society, from the undefined nature of the term influencer, in inverted commas, to the rise of micro-influencers. We explored how these figures shape audiences and navigate the challenges of scams, regulations, and public scrutiny. We questioned whether influencers are doing enough to protect their audiences, unpacked the fragility of their reputations, and debated the fine line between creative freedom and responsibility, especially when content shifts towards younger audiences. We took a deep dive into influencer circles, courses, and the reality of compliance, asking what standards should exist and are they being followed. Plus, we tackled topics like censorship versus self-filtering and the ethical implications of adult creators pivoting to content aimed at children. Dave's been Dave. I've been Jay. You've been listening to Voice notes suck. See you next time.
Here's a little insight for everyone. We write the summaries together at the end of our episodes. We capture some key points and we put them into a summary, and then we put them into a document so they could be read verbatim from a script, essentially. And on the script that I put together for Jay for this week's summary, or this episode's summary, I forgot to tell him to do all the things that we're supposed to do, you know, like the YouTube and Spotify things. So you get a bonus message from me. Please take a moment to subscribe, to share the YouTube video, the Spotify podcast, to make sure you've liked, to hit us with a 5-star review on Spotify. It would be very, very much appreciated. I'm sure there's some other socials that you could support us on if you'd really like to. Thank you. Take care. Appreciate you guys listening.
Dave's been Dave. I've been Jay. See you next time for another episode of Voice Notes Suck.